Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Blue Room. It's my great pleasure today to introduce a panel that can explain to us an awful lot more than I haven't to date understood about insuring and during the process of relocation. So relocating transferees and the various policies, everything to do really with corporate relocation and the insurance process. So I'd like to introduce Elizabeth Presner-Saleh from Jacob Street Partners, Daniel Edmonds from Clements Worldwide, and Nadia Bizari from Clements Worldwide. Excuse me for mispronunciations of names in that process. You'd think with a name like mine, I would be able to pronounce other names, but so forgive me for that. I'd like to thank tuning in live, the audience, and also those who are viewing this video, this broadcast as a recording. I would also like to thank the very valued sponsors of the Blue Room and Saba Networking. They alternate on Thursdays. That's Integrum PMS by AV Quest, Quality in Tourism, Accreditation, Safe, Clean and Legal, and the Eden Group, Locked Living. So without further ado, let's I'll remove the promotional video, the promotional graphics. Hi, this is me, and we'll welcome Raj onto the screen. Raj, welcome. If you'd like to tell the audience, please, a thing or two about AV Quest and Integrum PMS.
Hello, everybody. AV Quest, this is Raj, CEO of AV Quest. We're very proud sponsors of the Blue Room and also Saba Networking, which hopefully everyone will also try to attend every Thursday. AV Quest is a London-based technology company. We provide solutions for OTA payments and automating those for you, which is a plug-in to systems such as Oracle and Protel and many other PMSs. As well as the OTA payments, we also have an analytics solution that will help you get a better understanding of the market and also how well you're doing. And also we have our Integrum PMS product for small and medium-sized operators. The system is actually it's a cloud-based solution that includes a channel manager, web booking engine, and obviously a PMS that has a lot of features from surveys and emailing and et cetera, et cetera. If you have any interest in any of these products, and if you wish to contact me about any of those things I've mentioned, please feel free to do so. My email address is raj@avquest.co.uk, and I hope you enjoy the Blue Room. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Raj. Thank you. And if technically possible, please do post your details into the comment section there, or else when you go into the audience. But thank you for that. So we will now introduce Sarah. Sarah from, oops, wrong one. You're not Sarah.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah. I'm the not quite so gorgeous one. All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be sponsoring the Blue Room again. Here we are. My name's Sarah White. I'm the operations manager at Quality in Tourism. We're offering the Safe, Clean and Legal accreditation at the moment. It's vital for everybody's business to be ensured that, as it says on the tin, that you are safe, clean and you're legal. The good thing about the accreditation with us is the fact that we'll take you through all your risk assessments. We'll help you with any good practice that we can. We're at the end of the phone, and we also come and do a physical visit with you to take the fear factor away from those pesky risk assessments, etc. We were launched in 2018, but obviously due to the C word COVID last year, we've done enhanced cleaning schemes, and we're there to help you ensure that you're safe, your business is safe, and also all of your customers that come through there have the highest standards of cleanliness that they could possibly want. So again, a bit like Raj, here to help if anybody needs anything. I'll put my comments and my details into the comment box. Thank you and enjoy the show. Bye.
Thanks, Sarah. In case you can't comment, or at least if you're going to comment then from the audience, but the web address, your web address, please.
If you just pop in, it's qualityandtourism.com. It's very easy.
Okay. Very easy.
And
okay.
go to the front page and then we'll direct you through. So if you've got a query, then it'll come through to us.
Fabulous. Thanks a lot, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. We'll now bring the panelists onto the stage. So we have Elizabeth.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Nadia. Yeah, don't start saying, you'll end up saying good morning, afternoon, evening like I do every single time. Yeah. It's, Elizabeth, Nadia, Dan, and we also now have Ken Thorns joining us from Primestone Corporate Housing. So perhaps welcome, Ken, by the way. And
thank you so much.
No, I'm glad you could join us then in the end. We'll be posting some comments and questions very shortly, but if you maybe introduce yourselves to the audience in a little bit more detail than I did initially. We'll go around the gallery. I can see it as Elizabeth, Nadia, Kenneth, and Daniel. So Elizabeth, if you'd like to start, please, a little bit about yourself and your company, and then we'll go on from there.
Sure. Richard, first of all, thank you so much for having me today. And it's so good seeing so many of our industry friends already checking in, and just really excited to be here. I'm Elizabeth Soley. I'm the founder of Jacob Street Partners, and I'm also the child of a transferee. And so we moved around a bunch growing up, and we didn't have corporate housing. And our last move, my parents had the bedroom and I had a sofa for 3 months in a Courtyard Marriott. And so to get breakfast, I had to have room service or go downstairs. And so that's what gave me the heart for this industry. And I got my first job in 2002 working at Churchill Living, and just kind of have grown my career since then, and just loved this industry and started Jacob Street in 2010, really to simplify the insurance needs for the mobile workforce. And so we really focus on anything that has to do with risk management in the corporate relocation sector, including all forms of service departments and apart hotels and temp housing.
Fantastic. Thanks, Elizabeth. Thank you. Over to you, Nadia.
Good afternoon. My name is Nadia Bizari. I'm sorry, my voice is not cooperating today. I am international business developer at Clemens Worldwide. Who is Clemens? Clemens is international insurance provider. We are cover holder at Lloyd's of London. So what that means, it gives us underwriting authority of Lloyd's of London, and we can design the policies to best match needs of our clients. So as Elizabeth mentioned, we partnered with Jacob Street partnered with Clemens back in 2012. And we kind of worked with Elizabeth, based on her experience as a child of transferee and being transferee, to design policies that are specific to this, community, to the people who relocate often, to make sure that there is no gaps of coverage and they are always protected. So, Elizabeth's passion and our underwriting capabilities, allowed us to design this program.
Thanks, Nadia. I keep finding myself muted, so that's why the hesitation. Thank you. Over to you, Kenneth.
Sure.
Please.
So fantastic. So my name is Kenneth Flornes. I'm the Chief Development Officer for Primestone Partners, where we have two segments of housing, one being what we all know as temporary corporate housing, and then the other side would be more of a property management side, which we actually help multifamilies throughout the U.S. in really creating a furnished program for corporate guests or even individuals sometimes. Basically, the company Primestone has been around for like 11 years. I was brought on about 3 years ago to head the housing sector of the business. We've expanded drastically, even through the crazy times of COVID for the last year and a half for all of us. We all primarily we're focused on B2B, big corporations that really want to transfer folks from from LA to London, London to Sydney, Australia. And we've really evolved and grown. Big part of what we do is technology. It's really enhancing the experience for the guest. Jacob Street and Elizabeth and her team have been vital in our growth in regards to giving, that the whole point of duty of care, making sure that the customer, whether they're being placed in Timbuktu, Iowa, or in a remote region in Australia, is covered from an insurance perspective. And we've grown drastically, and we're based here in New York City. So it's a legitimate skyscraper in the back here. We're located in New York, Midtown Manhattan, and we have some remote offices across the country. And we're constantly growing with our footprint in temp housing. We do everything we can to really give that different experience, from the white glove service from check-in. We're doing a lot on our end from a supply chain issue, which everyone is being affected by these days. So we have implemented a lot of different steps in order to make that guest experience not being affected by all the things that we're getting affected with on our end, from the furniture vendors to the cleaning companies to properties not having apartments and all that fun stuff. So in my history a little bit, I, like Elizabeth, started in 2002. I actually started at Oakwood Worldwide, the monster and the legend in temporary housing. I ran the New York market for about 9 to 10 years. And then from there, I went over to Silverstein Properties, reporting to Larry Silverstein, who is actually one of the owners of the World Trade Center side in New York, and done consulting. I've really been in the temp housing space for quite some time. So I truly appreciate it. I can't wait to get to work every day. I'm passionate about it. And, we all have our thing. Temp housing is my thing, and I absolutely love it. And I like making people happy and making sure that guest is happy from that journey of relocating from one country to another and showing up in an apartment that actually is clean, that the keys work, and they can have a safe stay while they're with us. And that's primestonehousing.solutions.com is where you can find more info on our company.
Fabulous. Thanks, Ken, and thank you for that passionate introduction. I'm going to listen to that every morning when I wake up feeling jaded, so to remind me of why I'm in this sector. So no, that's great. Thank you. Over to you, Dan, if I may.
Thank you, and that's a hard act to follow, Ken. So you set the bar high. So yeah, I'm Dan Edmonds. I've been in the insurance industry, whether that's a blessing or a curse, for over 20 years now. Originally in the London office, as you can tell from my accent, held a myriad of roles, from claims adjusting to underwriting to operations to marketing to sales, which has given me a broad understanding of the insurance market as a whole. I've been with Clements about 8-9 years now, originally in London, and transferred about 4 years ago to the US. So I understand the troubles, the tribulations, and the challenges that come with going from one place to another. And really have enjoyed over the many years working with Elizabeth and getting to understand this sector more and more. It really is a fascinating industry, a fascinating sector. And I can certainly say I've learned a lot in the last sort of 6 years of working with Elizabeth. And I hope that we can impart some of that knowledge on everybody today.
Richard, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I was muted there. Thank you. I knew you'd get me eventually. Thanks, Dan, and thanks everybody for those introductions. I'd like at this stage to encourage people tuning in, whether it is Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, to please post comments and questions in the chat. We've got a lot already, and thank you very much indeed. Keep posting them. If you haven't posted already, do so please, including your company name. Do use it to promote yourself. So I'll go through some of these, and So where are we? There we go. Jamie, thanks, Jamie, for tuning in. I know you've got an absolutely hectic schedule. Great panel. Looking forward to this session. Valerie McKenzie from Deluxe Suites tuning in from beautiful Phoenix. Hi,
Valerie.
Good morning. Yeah, exactly. By all means, the panel, please do say hi to these people. You may very well know. Yeah, exactly. Ed from San Diego. Yeah, glad you could join us, Ed. In fact, Ed will be on a Blue Room, a forthcoming Blue Room in the not too distant. I've known Ed for, we won't even admit, will we? About 25 to 30 years, I think. Christina, good morning. Price Point Moves is checking in from Pittsburgh. So hi, Christina.
Hey, everybody.
Stephanie Acker from Chicago. Whenever I hear the word Chicago, I'm tended to go for reasons that yeah, exactly. We'll see if she's here, but otherwise we'll have to do a shout out to her anyway. Jack, hi Jack from Stryker. Thanks for joining us. Jill, also from Deluxe Suites in Detroit, where Jill is based. Hi, Jill. Frederick, now then, Frederick, good morning from Chicago. Frederick, by all means, post your company name there. Adam, here we are. Where are we? Adam from Star PMS. Thanks for joining us, Adam. I know you've had a hectic one today because you had a webinar earlier, which I tuned into. So thanks for joining us. We will get to the chat in a minute, but I don't want to neglect our cherished viewers. Tamara, greetings from Philadelphia. Again, anybody that's not put the company name in, please do so. It gets some LinkedIn users. I don't know whether it's when they're tuning in from a telephone or not. I don't know, but LinkedIn user, if you want to let us know which company you are and who you are, tuning in from Huntington Beach. Janet from Now Then. I should know this one. Can anyone help me with it? Right. Okay. Good. So.
Van Lines.
What is it? DN Van Lines.
Van Lines.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks for joining us, Janet. And thanks, Elizabeth, for that. Nina Taylor from the Sweet Faith in Houston.
Oh, hey, Nina.
Got Tim from Atlanta. Now, Tim, remind me of the company name there. I should know it. We've got a LinkedIn user just where we don't know the ID or the person, unfortunately. We're getting there now. Laurie, good morning from New Mexico. Hi, Laurie. Kerry, greetings from Washington, D.C. Julie, great panel. Good morning from San Diego. Now then, have we got? Well, I'll try and fish out. Ed, congrats.
Thank you.
Machine, yeah, indeed. No, we're really, really pleased. Thanks, Ed. We've got Anand from London Cloud Apartments and Faye, your own. Where are we now? Looking forward to learn so much with this panel. Greetings, everyone. Good morning from the Philippines. Right. So thank you so far, people. And please do keep posting. We've got a LinkedIn user by the from the Square. Sort of hybrid service department provider and booker. Right, get on to into some of the conversation topics, and thank you for your patience, everybody there. So as far as I understand it, and audience, please do feel free to post the craziest questions you want, because they won't be any crazier than the ones that I could post if I were to do so. But it's my understanding that between 25 and 30% of relocations end up in a claim. that you should consider it more as a valuation exercise, because we all think insurance is a bit nasty and maybe we have to do it, but it also reminds you the value of what you are, of what you're moving with. Indeed, what you want, what do you want to move with? Is it, will you be just packing it into a pod or a pallet and moving it, or do you move your whole household and what have you? I'm interested in who the actual customer is. I guess it's the assignee, the transferee. Which countries are involved, scope of a worldwide business, and also when does the corporate housing insurance take over from the relocation insurance? So, if something's dropped on the stairs, is that the relocation or is that the household? But I will hand it over to, as Ed said, our distinguished panel at this stage to have a more constructive and fruitful kind of discussion. The first, before we go any further, though, Elizabeth, company name. Do you want to?
Sure. So Jacob Street comes from Rue Jacob in Paris, which is in the 7th arrondissement. And that I used to live in Paris, and Paris is just near and dear to my heart. And when I was starting Jacob Street and we were trying to formulate a name, my husband happened to be reading Hemingway's A Movable Feast. And we had just come back from Paris and we had been staying at a hotel on Rue Jacob. And so I loved the idea and the concept that insurance and that Jacob Street could be that conduit, that road, as a transferee is going through a relocation process, whether they are, moving so that they need transit insurance, whether they're going to have a vacant dwelling as part of the home sale process, as they are, if it's an international move, while things are going through sea and air shipments, that we're there to help them. Then we're, through temporary housing, and then finding their long-term housing solutions, and that we can help them in every step of the way. And so that's kind of where Jacob Street came from, was just that imagery of an assignment being a journey, and being there hand in hand with our clients to be that safety net, so that when things go wrong, that we can help protect them. And also the reason why we give macaroons away every month as part of our newsletter is that Lingerie macaroons, which are Lingerie created macaroons back in the 1800s. And so they happen to have a store on Rue Jacob. So that's kind of where the tie-in.
Interesting. I wish you'd not mentioned macaroons though now, because okay, we're coming up to eat dinner time, so evening meal time here in the UK, and I'm you've done it now, and I don't have any biscuits to hand. So no, that's interesting, Elizabeth. So, and the context, so we'll be talking about insuring corporate relocation. In the context of that, how, I know it's going to be a really can of worms, I'm sure, but what choices does the transferee have? So if I'm relocating with my family, I guess I have a choice. Do I take just my essentials? Do I take some things that will set me up as a little bit of familiarity, or my entire household? So, and also what type of insurance is this? So, it's my understanding that the movers, the people that will relocate your property, will offer a basic insurance, and I've seen something like 60 cents per pound per item or something like that banded about. But you are probably recommended to take a more comprehensive insurance, so that there's no tears at the other end. So more comprehensive insurance from an accredited insurance company, or accredited mover who will use an accredited insurance company.
So as I mentioned, I'm the child of a transferee. And so growing up, my dad had a saying that three moves equals one fire. So his point in saying that was that generally if you move 3 times, you're not going to have any of the same belongings that you had before the first move, that they will all have been destroyed. Now, I don't think that is truly the case, but he, was making his point of all of the things that had gone wrong. And, again, I don't believe that we were truly using the same level and quality movers that are a part of the relocation industry. But absolutely, insurance is vitally important. And we want to be there to help them. We have a variety of insurance products. Most oftentimes we partner with a relocation management company, or we can partner with a household good company to provide domestic or international transit insurance, and to be able to make sure that they have the coverage that they need. So that the whole reason why there is a corporate move is to get someone from point A to point B as quickly as possible, and so that they can focus on the task at hand, which is their job. And so we're here, when something goes wrong, to make sure that it gets fixed as quickly as possible.
Okay, thanks, Elizabeth. And if Nadia, Dan, if I could ask you, please. So where does Clements fit into it? So you work with Jacob Street.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry that I didn't fully introduce them, but yes, we have a very strong partnership with Clements Worldwide, and could be here today.
Yes, thank you, Elizabeth. So just to add to Elizabeth's points regarding transit insurance, we obviously try to make sure that transferees are protected from the time that their belongings are loaded onto truck, whether they go to warehouse, whether they are transported by land, sea, or water, up to another location. And so we provide truly seamless transit insurance without any gaps in coverage. It's borderless coverage, so whether transferee moves, actually it covers him for 12 months, so it can be multiple moves. We can also package it with rental insurance, so when transferee comes to the final destination, the transit insurance turns into rental insurance automatically up to 12 months. And we include some perks with it, such as identity protection and other things. So they're very important. So truly, it provides the peace of mind for transferee for a longer time, not just that one move.
And just to add to that point, I think Elizabeth and Nadia touched on very important points. And Richard, you talked about the importance of insurance. As somebody who relocated from the UK to the US, a real life situation that every transferee goes through is downsizing. When you talked about how much do you take with you, you don't take everything. It's not feasibly possible. And it's a great opportunity to declutter. So what that means, what you're left with are your more prized and cherished possessions. So therefore, is it more important or less important to have insurance? In my opinion, it was the most important thing, because I didn't and hadn't done a relocation before. And I wasn't confident just how many of my items would make it safely, the items that I've chosen to retain all the way across the Atlantic. So for me, that was not just because I work in the insurance industry, trying to find and making sure I had the most robust coverage was really important to me as a consumer, to make sure that my prized possessions got where they meant to be as they were meant to be. And I didn't, unfortunately, have a broken box or a broken piano or whatever when it arrived. So it is a vital aspect of the relocation. I think not just from what Elizabeth and Nadia and myself do from providing and procuring the insurance, but from the customer lens as well, because these are your belongings that are vitally important to you.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Nadia. Ken, if you'd like to perhaps explain, please, where a corporate housing company such as Primestone then fits into this relationship with the insurance company.
Absolutely. So the amazing relationship that I've had with Jacob Street and Elizabeth and the team from Clements Worldwide, it keeps me, I'm able to sleep at night. So having them as our partner globally, knowing that we have a fantastic firm that if there are issues do arise for our transferees while they're staying in our corporate housing apartment, whether a laptop goes missing or if there's a maintenance issue that things are damaged in the unit, Jacob Street and the team literally cover every aspect of it. It's really from our team and our guests that are staying in the apartments that they have that reassurance of like Daniel had explained, that they're covered, that they don't have to. That's one thing they don't have to think about. And the neat thing is that we have it implemented in our system, so there's not 1 day of a gap. Literally, our reservation starts. Our system is combined with Jacob Street, so that insurance, as soon as they open the key, put the key in the door, they walk into the apartment, the insurance is ticking, and they're not paying for insurance for like a year policy. It's just the time that the guest is staying in the apartment, whether it's 3 or 4 months or whatever. And if they extend, it extends automatically. So it really is very flexible. If we know traditional insurance, especially in the U.S., it's very backwards and very difficult to work with. The Jacob Street and Clemens team have been amazing and really being flexible and fluid. And ultimately, the transferee is actually super happy because they're not paying for more. They're paying for the time they're using it.
And Richard, if I can also just add quickly, going back to what are people having with them. And so as part of a corporate relocation, and I know that that's only a small segment of those who are staying in corporate housing, but just for example, absolutely, there are household good providers who are packing up their belongings. And so that while their shipment is arriving and while they're finding housing, long-term housing, they're staying in temporary housing. And so they may have their most prized possessions, the things that are the most valuable with them in temporary housing because it can't necessarily go on a truck or an air shipment or a sea shipment. And so even though you wouldn't necessarily think that people would have a lot of belongings with them in corporate housing, they may, just because they're going through this process and that they need to have them somewhere, and they don't have their homeowner's policy any longer because they've moved out of their home.
Yeah, exactly. Coming back just quickly to and a little frivolously to something that Dan said. I don't know whether my wife is posting on comments there, but decluttering, she's always telling me I have too much clutter. So I'm a bit worried now. I need to check all those comments. Pay a fortune for storage. But Ken, so that's interesting. So, and I don't know whether it applies globally this or whether it's just in the States, but I can understand how it dovetails then. The transferee has insured for relocation, then moves into corporate housing, and it kind of becomes a contents insurance for when they're there. So there isn't. So you don't have to, as Primestone, you don't have to have an insurance, a contents insurance, then when the property is not occupied, I guess. So you're saving there. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So the neat thing is, as we're placing, for obviously during COVID, not too many folks have been moving internationally from continent to continent. But as things open up and prior to COVID, using Jacob Street as a partner, whether we're placing someone, relocating from New York to Shanghai, and for our folks boots on the ground to try to go out and get local renters insurance and stuff like that, between the language, all the paperwork involved and everything like that, it could be done, but it could be very time consuming and not really clear of what you're getting. The nice thing, having this global policy with Jacob Street, whether you're staying in New York, again, Sydney, Australia, or Nairobi, Africa, it's covered. It's covering our guests. So as we rely on not only our third-party suppliers that we work with globally, there's different quality, good and bad. Obviously, the good ones, it's great, but the bad ones and things do happen. We feel confident by having the partnership that we do to cover our transferee if something happens. I mean, that's what, at the end of the day, that's why we get insurance. 99% of the time, nothing happens, but we have the reassurance, and again, we can sleep at night to say, hey, you know what, Mr. Guest in the apartment, you're covered, and we're covered, and the company's covered as well.
And
Yeah.
if I may add, Ken, you mentioned that, yes, absolutely, the premium is paid per day. So, you know, it's per day stayed in the property. And I might say, working with Elizabeth, she will go for the battle for her clients or prospects. She will bring me desired rate, and I need to negotiate with underwriters. And she will fight for her clients, which I totally admire. So whoever wants to try work with her, she got your back for sure.
Well, no, and that's my role, and that's our role, is that we fight for you. We represent you, the corporate housing company or the relocation company, and that I'm here to be your advocate, whether it's with regards to rates, whether it's regards to policy, whether it happens to be with regards to a claim. And that's one thing that I love about our partnership with Clements, is that it's all about the partnership with our client. And so that we want this to be, because you have our insurance, that you are able to grow because of it, so that you can talk to your clients about risk management, and that you can go, we have a risk management strategy. And absolutely, there's going to be lots of things that are involved in a temporary accommodations risk management strategy. But one of them will be insurance. And so that they can say, absolutely, we think of everything from soup to nuts, and that it doesn't even matter if it happens outside of the unit, that you could lose your iPad on an airplane and that's covered, or that you could have your bike stolen while you're out to lunch. But again, you have that safety and security while you're staying at somewhere like Primestone.
Interesting. So if I could just get it clear in my head, please. And I warned everybody that I was going to have some stupid questions. But so I'm relocating, and my company will be taking care of that process. So they will have then a relocation management company. Now, my first question, but please don't answer it just yet. The relocation management company then has one insurance broker on their books, does it, or are there several? That's my first question. And then the insurance broker would have a relationship then with, if I'm understanding it correctly, with Clements Worldwide as an example, who can then package an insurance a package together. Now that's going through a relocation management company, an RMC, but the deal might be lump sum, or core flex, a relocation, and so I'm on my own, as it were, or half on my own. So do I then simply Google insurance brokers for relocation and start fishing around myself, or how does it work, please? Does any of that make sense? Have I got the rough idea?
Yes. So Jacob Street is the broker. And so in this case, because Clements Worldwide works with Lloyd's of London, they are a general managing agent with Lloyd's of London, which means that they have a lot of the roles and responsibilities that we would typically think of, an insurance company having in the United States. So Clements Worldwide manages the claims process. They manage the billing. They manage the policy administration. And so that they are paying out the claims.
So the claim would then, if I make a claim, I would be contacting Clements, not Jacob Street.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. So Clements, as Elizabeth says, sorry, Elizabeth, to jump in, but we operate 99% of our time as a broker. So we are there working as an advocate for our clients. And in these situations, for these specialist programs, as Elizabeth mentions, we've been effectively delegated the pen from Lloyd's. The underwriters, the people providing the capacity, the people providing the insurance, they trust Clements to be able to make certain decisions and write certain amount of products or policies on their behalf. So that helps giving us some flexibility to customize programs specifically to what our customer or our client needs, obviously within the realms of the capabilities. But it does mean that when something happens, we're your singular point of contact. So it comes through to Clemens. Now, earlier you had the situation of if you drop a package carrying up the stairs. If your insurance is comprehensive with Clemens, and let's say it covers the relocation and the actual renter's insurance in property, it doesn't matter, because ultimately your same entity, Elizabeth and Jacob Street, will be managing that claim, and Clemens will be going to bat for you against the underwriters to make sure that that claim is approved. And that's really sort of that benefit of having that truly international policy that covers the full journey, but also working with an organization that has that trust and faith of Lloyd's to be able to take on that responsibility.
And also, if I may add, since our policies are insured back to Lloyd's of London, you have this big insurance marketplace that guarantees that claims, if they're valid claims, they will be paid out. So this is not some small insurance company sitting behind this program, and you might pray that they're gonna be around next year or two, that you're gonna get paid your claim. We're talking about Lloyd's of London, so there is a guarantee that your claim, if it's a valid claim, will be paid. So we are backed up by that security as well.
And so part of the reason why Jacob Street partners with Clemens is because Jacob Street focuses on mobility and the mobility industry, whereas Clemens is a much larger brokerage, and so that they are able to work and are one of the largest international brokers in the world, and so that they have those long, I think you have a 67-year relationship with Lloyd's of London. And so that those relationships go back for such a long period of time, so that when there is something that is a gray area that might not typically be covered, it absolutely, they can go to them and say, but we need you to cover it this time, and here's the reason why. And here's why this is important. And so it just gives us a much larger bandwidth than if we were just focused, if it were just Jacob Street working directly with Lloyd's.
And I can tell you from the vendor on the temporary housing side, over the years, if there is a claim that, and things like I said, do happen occasionally, the quick response and immediate, I've never seen anything like it. If all of us on the call today have put a claim in personally for your own house, or other insurance carriers outside of this group here, sometimes, it's a constant battle. I've had floods in my house and all types of things, but I can tell you with these, they treat this truly as high priority, whether it's, a $500 claim or much more. The ease of business and contact and obviously the transferees only in a temporary housing apartment several months. So we want to get that reimbursement back to that customer ASAP, and I can say it's a pleasure working with this team because we've dealt with other, renter type of insurances at properties, and it's a brutal nightmare. So compliments to the whole Clemens and Jacob Street team.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you, Ken. Richard, one of the things we've been talking and we've been bouncing around a lot of different types of insurance. And so, and we offer many different insurance programs. But today, I just want to, since we're talking about serviced accommodations and temporary housing, just want to focus a little bit on that because I've seen some comments that have had questions. And so just when we're answering those questions, would just like to make sure that we're focused on that particular area of the temporary accommodations.
Should we go into the questions now? Should I post some of the questions up? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Should we start with Jamie? Where are we now? Jamie.
All right. This is one of my favorites.
Yeah. So if Elizabeth could explain the difference between renter's insurance and liability insurance, if homeowners covers either on short assignments abroad. Could you hear me there when I was pointing away? You could still hear me. Okay, great. Yes. So over to you, panel, and pitch in at will.
Well, I'll start. And Jamie, what I think you're asking is what's the difference between renter's insurance and short-term secure, which is our temporary housing insurance. And so that is, renter's insurance tends to be a 12-month policy, and that you tend to have to, it's on an individual basis, and it's insuring one location. And there's only two components to renter's insurance, and that's your personal belongings, your contents and effects, and your liability coverage, which is personal liability. And that's it. There tends to be a higher deductible, and there tends to, if you have a claim, it goes on to your permanent record. It's called a clue report. And so none of those things are the case with Jacob Street and short-term secure. There are four main components of short-term secure. It's on a daily basis. Those four components are personal belongings. So contents and effects, same thing. And we absolutely have the liability. And then there's also bed bug remediation, which vermin typically is excluded from long-term renter's insurance, and then accidental damage. And so it tends to be that we see the most claims involving accidental damage, and accidental damage isn't typically covered in a renter's insurance policy. And so that's the dog had an accident. The child decided to draw Picasso on the walls. We've had someone spill nail polish on 5 pieces of furniture. I know I'm going to say we all have, but maybe not everyone's like me, but I've spilled a glass of red wine on a piece of furniture, and I know the nightmare that's happened, and we had to get rid of the piece of furniture. So that stuff happens in corporate housing, and we're there because, as Ken said, you don't want to have the client relationship nightmare of going back and saying, there's a stain on the sofa that wasn't there before, or there's a stain on the mattress, and that kind of thing. And so that's a little bit about the difference. It's a group policy. It is covered from your check-in to check-out, and that so that if someone does lose something outside of the apartment, that's also covered. And it gives the liability protection.
I think, if I may, Elizabeth, one other thing I'd add to that, and I'm not sure, Jamie, if you're mentioning from the homeowners, if you're going internationally or you're going abroad for a while, what you'll find is a lot of your insurance policies will have limitations, territorial limitations, or term of travel limitations. So, for example, your personal property may be covered if you go internationally, but probably only up to 30 days, and you'll have to exclusively tell your insurer that you will be taking it to this territory for this amount of time. Same with the liability, that will have territorial exclusions. So it may not go the cross borders and give you that protection that you require if your stay is longer than a 30-day period. So it's always wise to make sure that if you are looking to utilize your homeowners to insure your belongings or your liability for any period of time when you're outside of your primary domicile, then you have to really be sure that there's no gaps in those coverage. And that's where we see the homeowners often falling short to something more robust like short-term secure.
And that's true on a domestic basis as well, is that different policies have different exclusions. And if you're living outside of your home for 30, 60, 90 days, that may absolutely be excluded.
Could I ask, please, what we're talking about here applies globally, does it? So we're not just talking about the States. Okay, great. Okay.
Right. So our insurance is in 180 countries globally. So that way, when we're working with a company like Primestone that has extremely rapid growth, that if they want to, have a client in Rio, Brazil, that's absolutely covered, and that it's in a stable currency, so that we're going to pay out the policy limits in the currency that's in that country, but it's all going to be based on a U.S. policy, so that they're going to be able to get whatever that conversion is.
Okay, because I'm wondering whether service departments, as in the UK, for example, whether that relationship and that smooth kind of dovetailing between insurance and corporate housing provider, whether that exists in the UK as well, so that the same policy can apply. I don't know whether anybody can answer that, or whether anybody in the audience can answer that, because it seems like a great solution.
Yeah, so we absolutely can, we can work with companies that are, based out of the UK, or, companies who are headquartered in hundreds of countries.
So your insurance then would, if I'm moving then from New York to London, then I take out your policy, which will track for my belongings in relocation, and I check into a service department in London. And all right, okay, that's great. I'll have some.
Right.
No, that's great. Okay.
So, or if you're a service department and you're based in the UK, and you want to have a policy with us and a program with us, that's absolutely fine. Or many European countries, as well as many countries throughout the world.
Is there a limit? So a minimum limit, actually, I'm thinking of. I mean, Airbnbs as well. Does that cover those kind of policies as well, or is that like holiday insurance, holiday lets?
So it's whatever the corporate housing service department arranges. So that if they're arranging a stay and they find that the best stay is through Airbnb, then absolutely that's covered, because we're insuring both the service department and the guest. So it's very much of a shared economy type policy. Interesting.
Wow. Okay. We've got somebody in an Airbnb that we handle, relocating from Chicago. Actually, they've not got their things yet, so hopefully they will. But I'm just wondering whether their relocation insurance covers that, or whether my own in situ policy would cover them. But anyway, I'm just thinking out loud here. So does anybody else want to add anything to this particular question? Because otherwise we'll go on to another question. I'll then run the sponsor video. It's only and then we'll go through some greetings from the audience. But does anybody want to add anything to this question, or are we okay with that? We're okay. All right. What I'll probably do actually then is I'll run I've got it on my screen. So Raj, we'll come on to your question next, which is, as well as insurance for content in the accommodation, if a transferee puts things into storage, for those things to be insured too, does the storage provider need to be accredited with you? Is there a relationship between the storage company and insurance? Or I'm thinking that the transferee probably takes out insurance directly with the storage facility. Is that right?
No. So if it's individual purchasing the transit insurance, and the belongings are covered if there's in the storage in between this transfer, the storage doesn't need to be necessarily accredited by Clemens, but they need to meet some guidelines. So it can be just a wooden place and put a lock on it, and I'm gonna call it storage, right? So it needs to be some standard met there. So to answer the questions, yes, the belongings are covered if they're in the storage during their move. I hope that helps.
And then with regards to temporary housing, I would have to actually look into our policy. I don't think that storage is necessarily included with the corporate housing insurance.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Also, thank you, Janet, for that comment. Love the background. Janet, wait till you see the video. So we're going to run the sponsor video now at this stage, actually, because it's 5 to 6. Could we have a show of hands if you need to leave at 6 o'clock? You're all okay to continue after 6 o'clock, are you? By the looks of it. which is great. Okay, so we'll run it because we've got so much more to talk about. Right, I'll run the video if I can find it, and I'll see you in 2 minutes. So just about time to run, get another beer, and come back.
Or Mac.
Hi, and welcome back. In fact, at the early part of that video, I'm not sure what was being covered up in terms of contact details. So it's just as well that Raj has added his contact details. Hello, everybody. This is Raj from AV Quest. If you'd like to know more about our automated OTA payment solutions, our analytics platform, and our Integrum PMS channel manager, booking engine, payments package, please email me, raj@avquest.co.uk. So thanks for that, Raj. And yeah. So if I may, excuse me, if I may, I will just catch up with some of the comments from the or greetings from the audience, and then we'll get back to some of the chats. So we have Mark Houston, Charles Hope Apartments in the UK. They're a very fast growing service apartment company, actually, and worth looking up. Tim has posted, thanks Tim, TP corporate lodging serving Metro Atlanta and Jacksonville, Florida. So thanks for adding that, Tim. We have Ramsey from Alliance Security. Ramsey, in fact, yeah, so Elizabeth knows him. Ramsey offers a security solution for service department companies throughout the UK, both securing initially and in terms of if you have trouble with guests. We have the LinkedIn user from Florida. Please do post again with who you are and your company name. Ed is saying here, Rue Jacob. So yeah, always Paris in mind. Laura, greetings from Texas. Kettleston Consulting, outsourcing. We relocate Mexican citizens to all over the US. Now then, that's a question, Ed, so I'll come back onto that one, and that one, and that one. This could be me talking to myself, but it's not. So anybody here from London, please do post again. And I think we've caught up then, although Jamie's got a question there, and Ed is saying good question. Thanks, Janet. I've got to do that one. Thanks, Janet. Appreciate it. Okay, so Ed's commented on Jamie's question. Good question. So let's go back to that. Jamie, could you explain coverage on personal insurance, injury, slip and fall while in temporary housing, and stolen items and time of recovery, credit cards, phone, cash? And if I may throw it open to anybody who would like to pitch in first on that one.
Sure. Dan or Nadia, do you want to go with the first part and I'll go with the second?
Yeah, yep, certainly. So yeah, slip and fall, bodily injury or personal injury, yes, that will be included as an accident if it were to happen. Obviously, we've talked a lot about your property ownership, like accidental damage to something you physically own, but obviously that includes yourself as well to a certain degree if something were to happen within the unit. So yeah, that is a coverage that is vital and is available, and something that would ensure any injuries to yourself whilst in the temporary housing.
And then with regards to the stolen items, absolutely, and the time of recovery. So one of the fantastic things about our coverage is that it includes mysterious disappearance. And people often think that I'm making that term up, but it's a legit insurance term. It means that something was there and now it's not, and that they don't necessarily know what happened or how it happened. You left your ring on your nightstand, and it happened to be that a maintenance person was coming in that day, and now your jewelry is no longer on the nightstand. You were walking around London, and you had your wedding ring on, and then you came home and that it was missing. So you don't know exactly how it happened or where it happened, but you know that the item is gone, and we absolutely cover those.
And interesting, Elizabeth, that second case you mentioned is something that actually happened on our policies. A lady was walking around, I think it was New York, with 3 rings, and unfortunately lost all 3 rings at some point whilst out and about. No recollection of how it happened. Couldn't say that it was getting into a taxi, it was getting on the subway, whatever it may have been. All she knew that she left the house with them, returned without. And that was a claim that came through to us, and that was settled because it was mysterious disappearance, and we didn't have proof of receipt because these were older rings. They weren't recently purchased. But because the mysterious disappearance policy or coverage is in place, we were able to be able to reimburse that individual for the cost of replacing those rings.
And so what I find that I love about that is that, Ken as a corporate housing company could have done absolutely everything right. And it could have had the best client experience, the best apartments, but somehow something still went wrong. Those rings still went missing. And just, now all they have to do is file a claim, and that it's covered up to the policy limits. And so that, things can just disappear. You were out for a bike ride, you went into, get a cup of coffee, and then you came back and your bike's gone. Things happen. And so that allows us to really feel like we're being able to provide a safety net, not only for the guest, but also for the client relationship between the corporate housing company and their guest.
And as I mentioned earlier as well, in regards to the reimbursement part of it, that as soon as we get the claim, it gets submitted. The turnaround time is impeccable from the Jacob Street and Clemens team. So we can reimburse the transferee immediately. Because like I said, they might only be there maybe 45 days. Typical insurance that we know from, the old way of doing things, it could take months and months. But literally within a week, sometimes less, we'll be able to reimburse a guest.
That is definitely the most. If you're in one of those situations, time is vitally important. And sorry to jump ahead, I just saw a comment come in from Janet talking about the ring story, and did that affect our standing with Lloyd's of London? Thankfully not, because the policy includes mysterious disappearance, because we've got that long-standing relationship with them, because we were acting as an advocate for our client and getting information directly from them. There was no sense of fear that we were trying to mislead or the client was trying to mislead. So it was actually a very easy conversation to have with Lloyd's.
And actually, I will take it a step further. We did have a case that was in Texas where someone had their ring lost or stolen from the temporary housing unit, and that they were accusing the housekeeping. That being said, this was the second time this ring had been reported stolen. And so the police came out and they did their report, and that they couldn't, and typically we wait until we have a completed police report in instances like this. And the police are like, we just can't, give it to you because we really believe this is fraudulent. But again, this was a really important client, and that they felt like that they needed this situation to go away. And so that we've still managed to pay out the process and to really take care of the client and do what was necessary. And we absolutely did. We settled with a $5,000 for the ring.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Thank you for the question, Janet, and for all of your answers there. If I just nip back onto Ed's question here, reinsurance protection from movers who are not professional, not ethical, holding your stuff hostage. What can be done about this mess? Does that happen? So what is that a rhetorical question, or is that an actual question?
Ed, I think you need better movers. I think you need to work with Janet.
There you go. Yeah, and that goes back to that old story, really, doesn't it? Of focusing when you're on relocation on the quality and reliability of the companies that you're working with, and not necessarily easy for me to say, but not necessarily on the price or what have you, because you Google something and you might find a company that isn't ethical, and maybe if you're that unfortunate, maybe a complete scam. So yeah,
it does happen. Actually, our former colleague Tanya Eggleston did have that happen to her when she moved to Texas, and that she did not go with a professional mover on her way to Texas. She absolutely used someone on the way back, but they did say, if you don't give us $1,500, we're not giving you your belongings.
Wow, that is unbelievable. So Raj is asking, are there things you don't insure? For example, antiques. So I'll just nip in there and in case you can then add to this list, because I scribbled some things down earlier on, and thanks for the question, Raj. So well, I don't know whether these are insurable or not. I've just written a list though. So electronic damage, let's say, I don't know. I think these are additional insurances that you can take out. Actually, I'll let you answer Raj's question perhaps, and then I'll see.
Sure, and I'll start, and then I'll have Dan finish. So there are sublimits to our temporary housing policy, and we'll just stick to the temporary housing policy for now. And so that we cover up to $5,000 for high value items. These are items that you would typically need to schedule on your insurance policy. So you would typically need to provide an appraisal, or you would typically need to provide a receipt that you've purchased it to have them insured. Since this is a one size fits all and we want it to be as broad as possible, what we've done is we typically the limit is about $1,000 or £1,000 for high value items. So what we did is we made that and increased that by 5 times, so that when Ken does have a client who has a Lexus that goes missing, I'm sorry, a Rolex that goes missing, that's all taken care of, and so that we can cover it up to $5,000. So yes, antiques. So I believe the list is fine art, technology, cameras and equipment, coins, furs, antiques, jewelry. What else am I missing?
Oriental rugs.
Oriental rugs.
Cash, stamps, bonds, confiscated items, data, and items with no market value.
Yeah.
Well, you're not getting that from our list.
That's pretty much the stuff that you're on the right road there with things that cannot be insured. The number one to remember, anything that could be involved in a criminal act. Insurance is not there to support anything that you shouldn't be doing in the first place. Let's make sure that's clear. But the rest of the insurance, is pretty much covering the broad spectrum of the items that people would own. And as Elizabeth mentions, we can then schedule specific items on top of that to make sure that robust coverage is from the ground up. And liability, every policy will come with its exclusions. That's unfortunately the way that the insurance world works, to be able to keep the contract affordable and also keep it relatable to day-to-day activities. And in the policies, you'll find, for example, exclusions for if you were to cause injury whilst unloading a motorboat. that is actually one that is an exclusion within our policy. But obviously that is not your run-of-the-mill short-term housing activities that you would probably be engaged in. So a lot of the exclusions will not necessarily apply, but they're industry standard exclusions that support the insurance sort of process as a whole, really.
Right.
I noticed that Jamie just asked about the difference between actual cash replacement and versus full replacement value. Nadia and Dan, do you want to cover that and kind of what's included in our policy?
Sure. So our policy covers replacement cost at the time. So we don't necessarily depreciate the items. I guess that's very different from any other insurance out there.
And so what's interesting is actual cash value sounds like a really good thing. It sounds like, man, I'm getting my cash. This is awesome. It actually is not. It's a way that insurance companies are able to cut corners so that they pay less out. So a depreciated item, so let's say a laptop was lost or stolen, and it's a 4-year-old laptop and it cost me $1,500 to buy it. Now, unfortunately, it's only worth $150. But I can't go spend $150 and get my laptop back. So we would pay out the full $1,500 so that you could purchase the brand new laptop. And actually where that comes into play with corporate housing companies is that we have a lot of TVs that break. I don't know what goes on. Maybe people get mad watching, football games, either soccer or American football, yes. And so, but we do, and so that's one of those things that a 4-year-old TV probably isn't worth very much, but we'll give you the money to be able to buy a brand new television so that it is the flat screen, the thinnest, the highest, resolution and all of that.
Perfect. Yeah, and should you not do that, and should you only be relying on the basic insurance, I think we come back to that $60 per pound per item or something. So it's like no insurance. It's I think the vast majority of people do decide to take out the insurance when relocating. Don't they? There was a question. Where are we now? Janet asked, "Do you require full valuation forms completed for household goods? Do you also insure by weight? What is the multiply for by weight insurance?"
So to quickly, and I will have, our subject matter experts in insurance go into more detail. But Janet, what we do is we're incredibly flexible on all of our programs, whether it's household goods or whether it's temporary housing insurance or whether it's a long-term group program on an international basis for renters insurance. What we'll do is that we customize it based on what works best for you and what is your workflow. So we have clients who have said, we want everybody to have a full valuation form. We've also had clients who've said, no, we don't want that at all. Don't require it. Obviously, that's having a full valuation form protects the transferee the most and allows for the best protection. However, that may not always be possible. So we may put together an abridged valuation form that makes it quick and easy so that someone can just highlight the most important things and do that.
Yeah, I just reiterate everything you just said, Elizabeth. I think that was spot on. It's that flexibility to be able to customize it based upon the individual, that the client's needs, whether that's by weight, whether that's by valuation, and it really does have to fit with your workflow. So, from a insurance industry perspective, there's nothing more to add on that. I think Elizabeth just knocked it out of the park.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Just nipping back.
I'm sorry.
Here. Oh, I'm sorry. You go ahead, Elizabeth.
Oh, I was just going to say, Ken, do you kind of want to talk about any experiences and sort of, how risk mitigation falls into PrimeStone and what you all are doing? You're muted.
short and sweet version here. It's a critical part of the whole process. The majority of our clients that we're working with are corporate clients that want to make sure that either if they're relocating their boss, a colleague, an intern, whatever level management in that company, that they're covered. And that's why we include it. And even if it's a rate issue from a client, we will include it in every move-in that we do with our clients, just because we feel, like I said earlier, that that we can sleep at night to make sure that if things do happen, and things will happen, that it's covered. And because that's the way we conduct our business with these corporates. They know that they're taken care of, just in case one of their employees, there is an issue that does happen. And the corporate clients that we've onboarded over the last several years here, they see the value in that in a big way. And the neat thing is that, as the times in the world has changed a lot through COVID or whatever the case may be, or crime, or, the Jacob Street and Clemens team has really worked in really being ahead of the game, and which we benefit from. So we can tell our corporate clients, hey, the policy is revising this and this because of these things happening in that location. So I think it's a no-brainer if you are a temp housing company, and I would highly recommend to include it. And it's just the ease of business. We obviously have lots of things to worry about, especially in the temp housing world these days. And even from, moving companies or whatever, supply chain has been a huge issue for everyone. Whether it's moving companies that can't get drivers, it's either temp housing companies that can't get cleaners, or even furniture, or even actually getting a property set up because no one's at the building. There's multiple levels of supply chain issues across the board. But the nice thing about the insurance part, that's one less thing we have to think about, because it does go automatic. And from the initial reservation, when someone signs the lease, the day they move in, that's one less thing on our 100 million things we need to do to worry about. And there's no gap or anything.
Have you started to see that appear on RFPs?
Yeah. So
about insurance.
Yeah. So duty of care is a big thing for lots of companies now. It's many different levels. Obviously, COVID and all the different criteria. What are your vendors doing in providing safe, quality apartments, or the building that people are moving into? Their protocols are being followed, especially in the heart of COVID. I think that it is a question that's asked a lot more now. To your point, Elizabeth. And these are things that we address. We have, we've onboarded some major global companies that have thousands of employees globally that they're moving, and these are top items. So having this in part of our, even existing companies that we're doing business with, or new RFPs, having this in place and active and working and operating quite well, with the partnership and the insurance set up this way. This makes my life easier, or our team that's actually participating on various RFPs.
And actually, that brings us to a really good point, that we've seen situations with clients who didn't have our coverage, but that there was a kitchen fire, and it ended up burning down a building, and damaging several units. And the corporation did get brought into the lawsuit. And so having this coverage, just really, protects the company as well as the transferee, as well as the corporate housing company, so that when something goes wrong, because unfortunately we deal with multiple kitchen fires and fires every year.
And besides fires, there's floods. So one story I can tell you over the years of temp housing, there was someone that came from the UK, actually. Richard, you probably put him on us. And he came to a great town in Stamford, Connecticut, where he wanted to try out his new wetsuit by the Long Island Sound. And this gentleman put his wetsuit on a sprinkler head in the laundry room. But unfortunately, the wet tube broke. The apartment flooded. It flooded 4 floors, not 3, and down to the lobby. And the dollar amount of damage was astronomical. But having the partnership and saving the day, the building was covered, the temp housing company was covered, the guest and the company were covered, and that's why we have insurance, right? And for those crazy stories, and they do happen.
I swear temp housing has some of the best stories in the business.
No, thanks for that, everyone. So I'm looking at the time here. We've got 6:30. Is everybody okay to finish at 6:20 now? 6:30. Another 10 minutes. Is everybody okay for that? Or Nadia, are you okay? Ken, you okay? And Elizabeth, you okay?
We definitely need to run.
Absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. So thank you very much for this added time. I really appreciate it. Quickly nipping back to Ramsey and Alliance Security. That's a list of some of the things that they can
Yeah,
help
that
with.
works.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely great. And yeah, but Ramsey as a person to work with is fantastic. We know him and love him from Saba Networking, which happens alternately on alternate Thursdays. We do Blue Room, then we do Saba Networking, which is a Zoom affair. So thanks for posting that, Ramsey. What I'll do, if I may, is throw in some words. I don't know if you've got pen and paper, everybody, but some words and anything that is included there and what you'd like to talk about. If not in for those words, then anything else that you'd like to talk about before we depart at 6:30. So I've got down here cars, pets, perishables, pairs and sets. I'm not sure that that's something that you want to go into. Electronic damage and the fact that, what happens if the laptop arrives but it's not working. Mold and mildew, and the salvage clause, which, as to my understanding, it's something which, well, I'll let you explain it if you'd like to. But those are subjects. Those are things which I scribbled down: cars, pets, perishables, pairs and sets, electronic damage, mold and mildew. Not sure you want to go into that one, and the salvage clause. But yeah, and then other than that, please fire away with anything else that you would like to include in the information that the viewers will be learning from a lot. So thank you. May I ask you, Elizabeth, to kick that one off?
Sure. I'll start with cars. So our temporary housing insurance is not auto insurance. That being said, our coverage is so broad. We do get several car break-ins a year where something has been stolen inside the car. And so that is covered up to a certain limit. And so that at least they know that if their laptop got stolen from their car or something like that, that would be covered. But obviously damage to the car and things like that, that would be covered under auto insurance. And we do offer that, but that would not fall under the coverages of the temp housing program.
Not even if they're taking the car with them from one country to another.
No, that would be the purpose for auto insurance. But absolutely, if their belongings were stolen out of the car, that would be covered. And then pets. I don't know if I know one of mine interrupted this call. So I'll answer the pet one as well. And pet damage is absolutely included in our temporary housing policy.
One thing I just want to
Oops, I think you've frozen, Ken.
Ken?
You crack on until Ken's. You crack on, Elizabeth.
Sure. So pet damage is one of our most frequent claims, and that they happen, and it happens a lot. One of the funniest things that I've heard is that frequently when guests are reporting claims, that they actually send a picture of the pet. and say that this is the culprit and, that so-and-so is guilty. But it's, accidents happen. We want everyone to be good pet owners, but we all know that moving is stressful, and it's stressful for the pets as well.
I'm so relieved that your definition of pet damage is what they cause. Initially, I was thinking it was another way of saying, an injury to a pet, and it was just sounding so horrible. But yeah, okay, no, that's great.
So it's the carpet stain. It's they ate a leg of furniture. They ate the sofa. That kind of thing. Ken, what are you trying to say?
I think Ken's frozen again.
I think Ken might still be shy.
Yeah, Dan, you're going to add something there, were you? Or
Yeah.
Nadia, do you want to?
I was just going to jump in with regards to the perishables and sort of running down your list, and hopefully I've still got it in order. Although,
is it Elizabeth? Do you want?
there seems to be a delay happening right now.
Yeah, you press ahead, Dan, please.
Okay, so perishables, yeah, unfortunately that's not something that is easily insured. It's also not something that's often welcomed by those that are relocating goods or putting them into housing. It's unfortunately something that you cannot insure against, a perishable item. So that wouldn't be something that is insurable. Tech, however, and mold, mildew, yes, that certainly is. As long as it's been suitably packed to certain standards that the insurance protection provider has deemed necessary. And this takes us back to using, reputable firms. Then if there is, unfortunately, some form of damage, that is something that can be claimed for, yes.
Perfect. And we've got Ken with us. Thank you, Dan. Nadia, did you want to add anything to any of those topics?
I think Elizabeth and Dan covered it pretty well. Did I miss any items they were asking about? Was there anything else?
I don't think so. The salvage clause, I think, I'd like you say, Nadia, I think that it was pretty much covered. The salvage clause, what does that mean exactly? I know Dan has to leave at 6:30, so I'll kind of rush this one. But the salvage clause, what's the definition of that?
Salvage clause is effectively similar to an abandonment clause. So there's two aspects of it. It's effectively abandoning a property and putting it into somebody else's ownership, but with their written approval that they're taking ownership of it. So in that theory, that if they abandon it and pass their belongings onto somebody else, that wouldn't be covered because the policy is with the temporary housing provider and the actual tenant themselves. But the other side of the salvage clause, so it goes into the realm of subrogation. And that's where we talk about where you have the liability, the people who are responsible for the ultimate loss. And a lot of times an organization such as ours and Lloyd's, the underwriters, will agree to pay a claim knowing that they weren't ultimately at fault. The process or the product that we were offering was not the cause or actually had to pay the claim. They would then subrogate and go after the original loss cause. So for example, if we use freight forwarders, take an item from one country to another. It's insured by Clements, and the insurers, if that item doesn't arrive or if it comes damaged, will make the payment for the claim. That's the happy process for the customer and for the temporary housing provider. However, the insurer will still want to have a conversation with the freight forwarder to try and be reimbursed for the cost because they ultimately caused the initial loss, whether it's through poor packing, whether it's through dropping it going up the stairs. And that's really the salvage clause that sits within the carrier. The carrier can seek compensation to be reimbursed for a loss that they've already settled upon.
Fantastic. Wow. My brain feels a tiny bit like mashed potato here with all the information that's been coming, but I do thank you all so much for this. Now, Ken, I know you wanted to say something there, and then we couldn't hear you, so we'll come back. Dan,
yeah, I'm so sorry. Tech issues in New York, unfortunately.
Yeah. Before you start, Ken, I think Dan needs to leave. Is that right, Dan?
I am sorry. I do have to jump to a 1:30 meeting. Yes,
no, go for it.
But before I do, I just want to say one quick comment to Jamie. I see his comment up on the screen. The story of the person in DC. I used to live in a high rise in DC, and there was a flood. It wasn't over Christmas, but my apartment got completely flooded and ruined as well. So I sympathise with that individual. It's not a nice situation when it happens to you. But
yeah, indeed, and if that's good recommendation for insurance, there, isn't it? So,
it sure is. It sure is. But no, just quick thank you to everybody for letting me be a part of this, and hopefully get to talk with you all on another opportunity in the future. So thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much indeed. Take care.
Bye, Dan.
Bye-bye.
Thanks all.
Forgive me, Ken. Right, we're back with you now.
I think this is really important as well. We're speaking about service apartments. We're speaking about corporate apartments here in the U.S. or Canada. The insurance that we have and set up with the Jacob Street team is covering a home, as well. There's sometimes we're setting up for a senior level executive, a 5-bedroom house on, for a corporate apartment, a corporate home rather than a corporate apartment. So this policy worked for us on that too. During the whole situation with all the natural disasters in the U.S. and we're, potentially relocating several employees to new homes instead of apartments. The nice thing about the Jacob Street policy, we have that covered there as well, which is, I think, important so everyone understands it's not only a service apartment, it's actually your home, whether it's a 10-bedroom house or a 3-bedroom apartment.
Exactly, and increasingly so, isn't it? Well, since the advent of the vacation rental world. So yeah, indeed. Is there anything that anybody would like to add, which we've not covered? Well, there's so much we've not covered, but anything that you'd like to add? Oh, I can get you back here, Elizabeth. You're on mute.
I would love, kind of with regards to that, for any of your listeners, Dan and I have done a number of videos that'll be coming out on a weekly basis on Wednesdays. And then I'm sure that Nadia and Dan and I will be doing future ones where we do 5-minute little segments about different topics with regards to insurance. And so if you go on LinkedIn, this week we did one on why are insurance prices going up. And it's just a quick little video that talks about the things that are happening in insurance. It's called Streetwise. And so please let us know if you have topics of things that you'd like us to talk about. And we'll be happy to address them and to have, a quick video to give you the information that you need to do your job.
Fantastic. Yeah. Nadia, Ken, do you want to say any closing comments, and also obviously your website URLs perhaps that people can find you or contact email?
Sure. Thank you very much for having us. We appreciate it. Sorry, my voice wasn't cooperating today. I'm gonna drop my information into comment box. So please feel free to reach out with any questions, and either Dan or myself or Elizabeth can answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Richard, Elizabeth, Nadia, and Dan for putting this team together here for this panel. Richard, fantastic. I appreciate your time and everyone's time that participated on this call today. If anyone wants to reach out to me, my email is kflornes@primestonepartners.com. And we would love to, either be a resource for you or as a partner or relocating an employee, or just to talk about my crazy water leak stories that have happened in the temporary housing over the years. We definitely should write a book one day, 101 on temporary housing.
Yeah, it sounds like those flood stories are the best. Yeah, I would buy it. Yeah. No, well, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank all of the panel for participating in your incredibly valued and valuable time. So thank you to each and every one of you for that. Thank you to the sponsors, Integrum PMS by AV Quest, Quality in Tourism, Safe, Clean and Legal, and the Eden Group, Lock Living. Also, last not least, the audience. Thank you very much for tuning in live and for watching the recordings, and also for your great comments and questions. So thank you very much for that. Okay, so I'm going to play the outro video, and if I were you, I would then scarper from the stage, because you'll otherwise be left staring at the screen. So yeah.
And thank you, Richard, as well. Thank you for putting this together.
Not at all. It's my great pleasure. Thank you.
Let's go have some macaroons, everyone. Have a good day.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Cheers.
Bye.
Everyone. Have a wonderful day.